habits is kind of the key to it.
Signs of growth. That's actually a really good one. Hello.
Hi. If you like chicken tendies, hello.
Good morning.
don't,
Hello.
good
Test,
luck.
test, 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 test. Okay.
Kirby doesn't have to swim looking sad, though.
Alrighty. Good.
He holds his breath with a frown.
Good morning. Sorry. Let me scoot this over just a little bit more. Oh, hello from all the way
Hey, it's
from
Floaty.
from Deutschland. We have Floaty.
How's it
Good
floating?
evening, Floaty. How's the what?
How's it floating?
How's it floating? There you go.
Short, shriveled, and to the left.
What?
Oh, please tell me you've seen what is it, Jim Carrey and what is it, Animal Detective? What was the movie where
Ace Ventura?
Ace Ventura? Yeah, where they ask him how's it hanging, and he responds with short, shriveled, and to the left. Now I gotta find it for you.
All right. Well, welcome back to the pod. I think we have a good topic. Let me start the recording. Let me write down some points. Actually, we should do. What are some signs that you're doing the right thing? Well, what is some signs that you're doing the right thing? I'm just gonna spitball here, and then all of a sudden it's like.
Let's see.
You're still learning. You've had confidence. You gain confidence, but you recognize you're still learning. We're trying to do an episode of like 4 or 5 points that you're on the right track. Like 4 or 5 different signs that you're doing the right thing. Kind of about growth. I'm thinking, what are some signs that you're growing as a mixer? I say stop complaining about tracks. Able to organize workloads is another for me.
You know, it's funny. That's exactly what I'm writing right now in real time.
All right, so just give us a moment. We're giving us a moment. We're doing like 4 or 5 different points of like how to know that you're doing the right thing, how to know you're growing as an engineer. We're just kind of spitballing right now, and then we'll start recording. If you have any thoughts, if anybody watching the stream has anything that they want to say or anything like that.
Did I tell you that I'm gonna be doing one of Omos's people's studio?
Yeah, you did.
Okay. Yeah. I was supposed to have a meeting with them last night, but they got busy in their session.
All right, I think I got a few points. What did you write down? Or
Oh, I already got all mine.
what did you write down? Let's do the same points. Let's agree on a few.
Less focus on extra gear / software.
Hold on, let me see if I can throw that in there. Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
More focus on client experience.
Yep. Okay,
Yeah, that's a
hold on.
sign that you're doing well.
Yeah, I said able to balance creative versus service.
I put stable organization / project balancing.
Yeah, I did that too.
Yeah, returning business / refer to business options.
Ooh, so you did one about
Actual signs, yeah. Like all of mine are based around growth as a person versus growth as
regular
a skill set.
customers.
Yeah. And then lastly, I put request for mentorships. If you're ever being requested to actually mentor somebody, that means in the eyes of the public, you've actually grown to a point where people seek to actually match or grow along with you.
Is it cool if I challenge you on that on the,
Yeah.
on the live on the show?
Yeah, that's cool.
Because that would be a fun one to challenge. Okay. So number one is like obviously I think these can go. For me, I think like building confidence, like finding the balance between pride and humility, like being confident in what you're doing, but at the same time, like recognizing there's still more to grow.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that. I think another sign.
Humility.
Yeah, I think another sign of a maturing engineer is like they don't complain anymore about the A&R, about the poor quality of the track, about
It's
the
part of the
recording.
work.
Yeah, it's just the work, right?
Yeah. I like Floaty's response to the question earlier. It's floating in a nice way, actually.
And also, you're doing the right thing if it sounds good. When it sounds good, yep.
Yeah.
I think you said this, like being able to balance the creative versus service. So you're service oriented, but you're still so like which one's
So it's kind of a
more focused on
combination
client
of these two. So it's kind of more focused on client experience would be one where you notice yourself focusing more on the actual client's overall experience.
Yeah, that's gonna be it for me too. Client
Yeah.
experience.
At which
service,
point that
right?
ties back into like returning business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I said no longer focusing on plugin specifics or gear software in your case. I said past burnout, you still get excited though. You figured out a way to balance getting
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah.
Because like you
Or
hit this
you
point-
know how to take your break. You know how to take if
Yeah.
you need to take time, you figured that part out for yourself.
like I feel like learning to balance passion is a skill.
It is.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like I think that's one. And then you said regular returning customers. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then 8 is the request for mentorship. I think it's like a fun one. We can finish off with that or something like that.
Yeah. So we'll work off the list you got.
Yeah, and if it's funny, anything that I challenge on that, it's a direct assault on what we do. So it's gonna be fun. I think that like the concept of that is fun to me.
Fuck us.
Yeah. All right, let's get into this episode. So 7 plus 1.
Fuck, I forgot to bring your Ethernet cable. I'll
Oh,
bring it
it's
on
cool.
Wednesday.
It's cool.
Yeah.
No rush. I wasn't gonna plug it in today either.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, audio is recording.
Hello, test.
Video is recording. A nickname. Laser Lou. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Well, hold on. What the heck? Let me do it again. Hello and welcome back to the Mixing Music Podcast. I'm your host DK, and with me, as always, is my lovely co-host Laser Lou.
I hate to sound like a DJ, but
Do 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 do. All right.
when I think lasers, I also think of that horn.
There you go.
A semi-automatic laser.
Anyway, welcome back to the Mixing Music Podcast, where we help young entrepreneurs, young mixers like yourself, young producers learn how to make better music. And in turn, the main focus of this podcast is to kind of transition people to teach them not only how to get better at mixing, how to get better at audio in general, but how to do so in order to grow a business.
Yeah.
That's our thing.
Yeah, even if the business side is to stay as a creative versus just the technician, right? How can you get better and make sure that your end results are just that much more organized and better?
That's true. And,
Yeah.
and I think our big selling point is that we're not just a show about mix tips. We are a show that's practical mix tips in order to grow your business. So it's
I like to
there's
think of it as a
yeah.
show based around longevity and what we do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Longevity, sustainability. We're big on that. And we're not here to tell you how to do your EQ. in a specific instance, we're here to tell you how you can use an EQ to earn money. So if you are a hobbyist, the advice is different. And if you are trying to become a professional, which I do not know anybody that is engineering that isn't trying to do full-time with it.
Yeah.
It's one of those weird hobbies. Like with runners, you don't hear runners trying to go pro.
Yeah.
But with audio engineers, it's like most everybody's trying.
I'll say it like this, like a very clear difference in hobbies and professions is almost the price point of the tools required to actually do it. For instance, like, you know me, I like to build a lot with my hands and stuff. So woodworking has always been fun for me. But I can get a little like really cool locking miter bit, something that only really people who will ever deal with that kind of stuff ever know about, but it's only like $60, $80, where if you wanted to get like a mid-tier microphone, you're spending like $600 to like $1,500. That's quite the difference in price point. So like a big part of our side of like this industry or creativity is it's not a cheap one to get into. So like a lot of people tend to dive in so much that it's like, you know, if I'm going to spend this much, I want to see a better sense of return on it.
And I think there is an unfortunate correlation with how professional you look. For example, like whether or not you have a $300 mic or a $3,000 mic. Mm-hmm. I mean, the big difference is, the more expensive one obviously sounds a little bit better. But more importantly, I think this is like the balance that people are trying to figure out with their own egos as well. Yeah. Is like the value and importance of looking professional. Yeah. Of going into a studio and looking like you know what the fuck you're doing. Because at the end of the day, mixing is so obscure. It's like looking like you know what you're doing and building confidence that way is almost as important as building confidence through like getting a good mix done. Like you're not going to get that first chance unless you look like you know what you're doing, but you're not going to get a second chance or a third chance unless you actually know what you're doing. Yeah, so it's like a little weird thing. So one thing that you don't want to do, and for some reason the camera keeps cutting out. We are live on Twitch and YouTube. Let me try to figure this camera thing out real quick. But one thing that what we don't want to do is like you don't want to be a wealthy dude, a rich dude that has all the gear but has no experience. And the same thing, like you don't want to be the dude that has all the experience but has no gear. Yeah. And I think I would actually prefer the latter than the former.
I think that's kind of how the majority of our work the last couple of years has been. We have a studio full of gear, yet most of our setup is in the box. Yeah. Yeah, as far as our personal
that's the right
rigs.
balance, right?
Yeah.
And we do, I was thinking about this, like what's the best way to summarize how I feel about analog expensive equipment. And I think I finally came to the conclusion that it's what it is, the purpose that it serves. It's a really great tax deduction.
Yes, it's always been.
No, as in like that's the only purpose that it serves. Like you don't buy gear if you're not making too much money already. Yeah, yeah. Like you only buy gear so you avoid paying more taxes.
Yeah. So every year, whenever I'm prepping for my taxes, the first thing I do is I check out all my online receipts for everything that I've bought in that year. And that's the first thing I'm counting. I'm not counting my miles first. I'm not counting my internet bill or anything first. I'm counting the gear because that's going to sum up the biggest deduction that I'm going to have this year.
Yeah, so that's all it is. That's the main purpose that it serves. Otherwise, your dollars per hour goes down if you're charging per song. Every time you turn on and use an analog insert, your dollars per hour goes down. Anyway,
like the Questids at the studio, that's a tax deduction.
There you go. Yeah. So that's the main purpose that it serves, and that's the kind of advice that we give on this show. So if you're new to the show, welcome. We've been having a lot of new listeners. We actually just passed, if I'm not mistaken, we passed 800,000.
Holy shit!
800,000 downloads on Spotify alone. I think we're close to 30,000 followers. Nice. So like we're no small show anymore. So thank you so much for people that have been leaving ratings because that's how we do this shit.
Oh, and we have a winner for the last one.
Oh yeah, did you DM that person?
I don't know how because they didn't put their tag.
They did.
The second one had
zoom
a tag.
Zoom in.
Oh, okay.
Zoom in because they had their Instagram tag on there, the one with the British T thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
was awesome.
So AutoTune X is coming your way from Laser Lou today. All right, but we have a really cool episode. I think this is going to be an important one, a good one. These are 7 or 8, depending, 7 or 8 signs that you're doing the right thing, that you're on the right path. Like signs of mixing maturity, engineering maturity. If these are the steps that, this is a great way of landmarks, emotional landmarks to figure out if you're on the right path, if you're doing the right thing. Because as a mixer and as an audio engineer, as a producer, you kind of, and especially with egos and being creative like us, it's difficult to kind of gauge your own strength. And I know a lot of really talented people that don't recognize how talented they are, and a lot of under-talented people that overvalue their creative endeavor. Anyway, so this is to figure out whether or not you are in the right place. And here's like 7 or 8 landmarks or signs that you're probably doing good. And if you fit all 7 of these, I guarantee you're actually a really great mixer. We won't go into the Dunning-Kruger effect. You know, we've had an episode about that. Just search in the episodes list Dunning-Kruger effect. And that form of cognitive bias. Basically, people who think they're good actually aren't, and people who don't think they're good actually are. It's a really great episode about the psychology of figuring out where you're at. But today is more like practical landmarks, practical signs, and how you run your business, how you actually run your studio. I think this is a big one. So number one, we're going to start with the low-hanging fruit here, is that if you are good, then you're going to have a great balance of confidence and humility. Yeah. Now, a sign of someone that's not doing good is someone that is that hasn't quite reached that level of good.
Usually,
is someone that's underconfident. Ego. Like, you have a lot more to grow.
And I say the opposite. I say ego.
Well, both.
Yeah.
I was gonna get into that one later because that's even easier. But I think that there's oftentimes people that don't think they're good enough think that because their conscience is telling them that.
Yeah.
So like, it's this thing where it's like, okay, I'm charging whatever, $500 per song, $300 per song, but on the inside, I feel like I'm only giving them $150 service. So there's going to be this like cognitive dissonance where it's like, okay, they know what's going on, so they feel really shitty about it. That's one thing. I've also met a lot of people that don't think they're good at all, but they're really fantastic. But I would say that's few and far between, and on the inside, they actually know.
Yeah.
And then, the easiest one is like the people that are way overconfident.
Yeah.
They're probably the worst, actually.
Yeah, those ones I see all the time where it's almost like the infinite promise of LA. Whenever you meet somebody and they're like, oh, bro, like we can make $1 million together, this and that, but there's no plan. I've met a lot of people where they're like, oh, yeah, I've got some of the best mixes out there. And you'll hear them talk shit about every other mixing engineer in the industry. Then you hear their mix and you're like, I don't hear it.
Yeah.
I really don't hear it. Like, I actually don't think you have a leg to stand on.
It's interesting. There's like the persona. There's many engineers that have the persona of ignorance, and that's like part of their brand. Like Jason Joshua is one of them for sure. Like, it's like this feigning superiority for the sake of like the brand.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that goes a long way, but in most cases, in almost all of the cases, there is actually, like, if you talk to someone that is winning Grammys and you talk to them, they were introduced at a dinner by people that were not doing music, they'd probably play it humble because that's typically the type of person that they are. Like, they recognize that they're doing great, but they also recognize, like, more importantly, if I plateaued right now, that is fucking sad. Like, that's an important recognition. That's a really sign of a really great sign of emotional maturity. Like, yes, I'm good, and I recognize that I'm going to make you happy, but also this balance of, like, we're not plateauing here. I got a lot more to grow. And that in itself can be a sign of confidence.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's one of the ones we went and put on the list, where it's just, I guess you could say it's like understanding that it's not about your output, but rather your client's reception of what you're doing. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times we kind of look at our skill set right now is like, oh, we did something great, but the industry changes. The industry changes every year. There's a new artist every day. But every year there's a new top artist, right? And that new top artist has maybe a similar sound or a whole new sound. We don't know, but it's kind of like what Jimmy Douglas says. Jimmy Douglas will talk about how he always keeps younger cats around him because he's not going to keep up with what's new. He's learning from the newer guys. So how is it that somebody that's been around, has worked with everybody, is still finding something new to learn from the new guy?
Yeah. The GOAT, Jimmy Douglas. There's that's super important. So you kind of know that you're the shit, but at the same time, you don't gloat about it.
Yeah.
And you recognize that you still got a lot more to go, which goes into this is going to be like the foundation of like future points that we're going to get into. We're going to come back to this. But number 2, and this is where the humility part comes into. Number 2, I think a great sign of emotional maturity as an engineer and maturity as an engineer is you stop complaining.
Yeah.
You stop complaining about revisions. You just know that's part of the work. You stop complaining about poorly recorded tracks because you've just had so many. You just don't give a shit. It's like whether or not it's poorly recorded or not, you're going to kill it.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be annoying, but you also are grateful for your work so that you're able to do what you do. You know, you've come to a healthy conclusion about what you're doing. You also recognize that this is the type of shit that you're agreeing to when you agreed to try to do this as a living. So I think that comes from experience. And I think like complaining about labels, complaining about artists not making enough money, complaining in general, I think those that are actually really good just stop completely because you recognize, oh my gosh, I was able to overcome everything that had gone against me. Like you get over so fucking much that you realize, oh my gosh, if this piece of shit could do this, then holy shit, there's nothing to complain about.
Yeah. Honestly speaking, that's where like humility comes back into play because you do have to have a chip off your shoulder.
How do you mean? Yeah, explain that.
So to know that you don't need to complain about those things is also to say, okay, I can handle it. It doesn't matter. I can receive bad tracks and still make it good. I can receive good tracks and still make it better. It doesn't really matter. I could have a bad client. I could have a good client. Either way, I'm going to kill it.
There you go.
So you kind of have to have that chip off your shoulder. But the humility play is saying, but not every experience is going to be as simple as the next. One song may require 1 revision. The next song might require 5. But at the end of the day, the revisions are going to be requested. You should not be insulted that there was actually a revision requested. In fact, you should be honored. The main reason is this. Instead of them just accepting it and saying, we're going to move on to the next person because this guy didn't even get close. It's like, hey, can we just do a couple changes? Like we want to keep working with you. It's just like it just wasn't really hit on the first track.
Yeah, they're inviting. You want to invite collaboration. That's specific about revisions. I myself, I'm not gonna pretend like I'm the best at this. I think I've come to a point in the last year where I'm like complaining significantly less. But there was a point even since the start of the podcast where, man, I fucking hated revisions. I was really open about it. I really hated annoying clients. I hated doing this. I hated this. I've even said things like, I hate working with celebrities. I hate blah, blah, blah. Like a lot of like complaining. And I feel like over the last year, maybe 2, I've significantly decreased. And that's not necessarily on purpose. A little bit, you know, because I am aware.
Yeah.
But also, I feel like I've hit a level with my career and with my maturity and with my confidence in my work and the humility that I have. I recognize my place. I'm a small cog in a big machine.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not a major wheel or a major cog. I'm a very small fish in a big pond here in LA. And like, I'm grateful that I get to do this. And it's like recognizing, been through some terrible, terrible shit, you know, doing therapy as well. I recommend that for anybody going through anything. You know, running, you know, these things that are like, I'm kind of like getting over myself and maturing a little bit. And when I've stopped complaining, I have happier clients. I myself am happier. My mixes sound better because I'm inviting collaboration and there's like no ego. And I think the clients can feel that. The clients can feel that there's no ego. I'm on their team.
Yeah.
We're both mutually interested in making this sound the best that we can.
Yeah. I don't think anybody has any interest in having a half-assed output.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because before it'd be like the customer's always right, the customer has the power, but now like the power is equalized. Like I have the perfect amount of I don't give a shit. You know, like if you love your kids way too much, you know, that's not good for them. Like they're going to be over coddled. Yeah. Right? But if you don't give enough attention to them, that's also bad. Yeah. But you have to have like a balance of like, I don't give a fuck what you do. You choose what you want to do. Yeah. You know, it's like there's a perfect amount of that. And I think that that's kind of where I've come to with my career. Like, I care a lot, but not so much that I am nitpicky and complaining and like everything has to go my way because I recognize, okay, it's a push-pull thing going on.
Yep. To be honest, it's kind of the defining difference between whether you make money or not. Think about it this way, like you already know, like I still mix for a lot of people, but the big part of what people know me for nowadays is more mastering. The more mastering work I get on a regular basis, the more I see that there's the divide between the two sides of what people want out of mastering. Some people want the extra 5%, and some people just want the verification of their work. For most cases, it's only engineers that ever want the verification of work versus the extra 5%. It's usually artists and producers or labels that are asking for the extra 5% because they heard it and they're not in the mindset that the engineer has put 100% of their time into it. With that said, it doesn't really matter to me which one they prefer because I can give them both, but it ultimately matters how they receive it.
Yeah.
You know, because at the end of the day, as long as nobody's complaining, you've done your job and you can peacefully put it away. Even if you don't like the end result, one of the biggest things you can walk away with is, I'm done with it.
Yeah, so I do think, like, there's a great... let's look at it from a different angle, because if we talk about music, I love to talk about art or any other forms of art and creativity, because then we can look at it a little bit more objectively. But I mean, look at the rise and fall of comedians' careers.
Yeah.
People that have podcasts. It's the comedians in the early days before they feel like they're getting enough recognition. They're complaining and talking shit a lot.
Yeah.
And then they get to a specific point of fame, and then they stop talking shit.
Yeah.
And then once they're going back down again, they start talking shit even harder potentially than the first time. And sometimes talking shit is a sign of them going down, but also that's like, for example, with H3, that's like him talking shit is the reason why he's going down. Yeah. And it's just such a fucking boring. He just talks shit. It's like, it's just so negative now.
You see it a lot in YouTubers. Like a lot of YouTubers when they're doing well, you just see them focus on what's going on. And then you hear about like the YouTube drama of whatever's going on. I'm not even going to bring up the examples that I know because they have to do with Pokemon cards, but it's kind of petty to see it. And then you just lose interest in the videos. When you talk to people who act like that, you lose interest in the conversation very quickly. Yeah,
you realize that the person that's talking about it isn't interested in doing it. So you can tell, like, for example, like I think Ethan with H3 is a great example because you can tell that he just doesn't care anymore.
Yeah.
Like something snapped in him. And then say like, so you can tell that the person doing it isn't into it as much. And then they're talking shit about the person who is trying to get interested into it. It's not, I mean, think about being that as a mixer. The person that is just an engineer in general. That is just a really bad place to be. And I sometimes it's a sign of not doing well, but I also think that that's keeping a lot of opportunities from happening.
Which I think might tie into one of the other points. I don't know if I'm going to go off order, but it could also be a sign of not being able to handle yourself during a burnout stage.
Yeah, we're going to talk about burnout in a second here. But I want to be clear. I really believe in this. I heard someone say this once, and I really resonate with this. I don't think most people miss opportunities. Like the things that that keep you back are not missed opportunities. It's not because you didn't get that chance or you didn't meet this one person. It's because you can't handle your everyday opportunities.
Yeah.
Like you miss more opportunity by fucking up little bits every single day than you do from missing a big one you're not going to get the big ones unless you don't fuck up on the small ones. So what was I've missed the quote. I forgot it. My boy Trevor from Get It Done Music, he's the boss over there at that sync label. He's like, people miss more opportunities by like everyday things rather than like the big ones. You don't miss opportunities by missing big opportunities. Like you miss them by making bad decisions every day.
Yeah.
So it's just like that I'm a big, huge proponent of that. Like, work on yourself. The reason why I talked about this yesterday with a group of friends, but the reason why I like running and why people like working out and doing like, there's a reason why it sucks and we still do it. Runners still do it, is because I feel like when I'm running, I'm whittling between me, DK now, and DK 10 years in the future. I'm whittling it down. So the only difference between happy, successful DK is a matter of time.
Yeah.
I'm like taking on the responsibility, eating shit, and proving to myself that it's not because I'm a complainer. It's not because I can't do hard things. It's just time. Because I can't control fate. I can't control destiny, but I can control taking responsibility every single fucking day. And there's something that feels really good about that. And I think that's why I like running. Also, you stay thin. But we're not going to get into that. Number three. So I think stopping complaining is huge. Stopping complaining is a great sign that you're on the right path. And I think that comes naturally. I think partially it's a decision, but it also partially comes naturally. Number 4 is project management. And being proficient in automation, or more importantly, being able to handle workloads.
Yeah.
So hold on. Go ahead. Actually,
I was going to say a good sign that you're doing well is acknowledging that your roster of work doesn't actually have to be long. It just has to be efficient. This means that if you're not the type of person that can handle 10 projects at a time, then it's okay to only have 5 at a time. Just make sure you're getting them done right and that your client output is actually a pleasant one. The reason being is that a lot of people complain about the amount of work that they have versus the quality of work that they are putting out. A lot of times once they start getting more work, they never actually learned how to systemize. They never learned how to organize or balance their projects. They don't know, for instance, like FilePass was a good one for me.
FilePass is awesome.
Yeah, having a whiteboard in the office.
By the way, if you are interested in getting FilePass, you said whiteboard is great too.
Yeah.
If you are interested in getting FilePass, go to mixingmusicpodcast.com/FilePass.
Oh yeah, learning how to actually send out emails with the files and everything, and giving them links and information on how to actually leave revision notes and things like that, so that everything's not all over your text messages. A lot of times, like, if you started off with maybe 1 or 2 clients at a time, that was probably a lot easier to manage and balance. But once you get to a point where you're like, I have 10 clients and I feel like I'm struggling, it's very easy to have that battle in your head where you tell yourself you're failing versus trying to find the solution. A lot of times those solutions is just systemizing your workflow. A good sign of growth in this is literally that, having a better sense of balance, whether it's a small amount of clients that you're putting the balance together with, or you've now grown to a point where you can handle more clients. But if you started off with 1 or 2 at a time and you're able to manage now 5 at a time, that's a sign, whether it's double the number or not.
Yeah, I think to piggyback on that, I think this comes partially naturally because this just comes from experience. But it might be also a decision. If you had huge, like if your dreams came true and you had people out the wazoo, let's say you had 20 people ready to have you mix a single or an EP right now. They all came to you right now on the same day at the same hour. It all hit your inbox. Everyone has a budget, a proper budget that fits your needs. Most people cannot handle that.
Yeah.
Like most amateurs and people that are not mature enough as an engineer do not know how to handle that. And this is where having a little bit of business skill and being able to communicate effectively, being able to mitigate, being able to figure out how long each project, estimate how long it's going to take for you to finish these projects, estimate, qualify each individual person, collecting payments from each individual person, hedging systems. You do all up front or half up front? Do you do all at the end? How do you do revision notes? How do you balance and which songs are coming up next? Do you have a calendar that shows you approximately what date or date ranges you're going to have projects done by? I don't think most people that are amateurs have a system or have ever had a problem big enough to be able to handle that much workload.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I personally can speak on myself. If I had 20 people that's come up to me on the same day, same fucking hour, I can handle that easily. I have systems to make sure that happens. We're not here. This episode is not talking about how we do those systems. There's lots of episodes about that. And there's lots of different ways to do that and different ways that work for you. But if you are the type of person that uses a calendar, at the very bare minimum, uses and follows your calendar, uses and follows a to-do list, uses and follows revision systems, communication system, answers your emails, things like that, those are signs of really great maturity, that you're experienced and that you're destined to do well, or you currently are doing well. I think that's a really, really great sign. Being able to organize workloads. I'm also... there's been many times in my life, even I'm trying to think. When I was younger, I definitely struggled. Projects fell in between the cracks all the time. Oh, I totally forgot to send this back to you. I totally forgot to do this revision. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. The last 2 or 3 years, last year to 2 years, that hasn't happened actually. I'm trying to, like, for the sake of this episode, I'm trying to, like... Yeah, I can't think of a single instance that happened in the last year or two. But in the early stages of my career, that happened all the time. Projects fell between the cracks. I forgot about it. I didn't answer this person's text. They sent me the files, and then the WeTransfer or expired. You know, that happens all the fucking time. Your WeTransfer expires. You have to have them send it over again. You changed hard drives, and they needed a project on the other hard drive, and, you know, whatever. You didn't want to do that. You didn't want to do it. Things of that nature. That a great engineer, an experienced engineer, one that is currently doing great or is destined to do great. I think a great landmark or a sign of success is being able to handle that extremely well.
Yeah. And it's easy to claim that, like, needing an assistant is a thing, and that's not totally true. At least not at the beginning stages. You know, that comes once you're doing like 10, 15 projects at a time. You know, if you're doing less than 10 at a time, you don't actually need an assistant. You just need better systems. This
is a thing that we talk about on a different episode where I talked to a manager, and he said, yeah, it's not even worth picking you up as an artist or as an engineer. It's not even worth... A manager's not going to ask to manage you, one that is professional at least, unless you're already making $80,000 to $150,000 a year.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to prove it that you can handle it on your own. You would just thrive better with a manager.
With the manager. Yep.
So it's like that is huge. I think people over-rely on management or think that that's the secret sauce, that they don't have to do this. Yeah. No, you have to fucking do it.
Yeah, a lot of people think like, oh, well, a manager can put you in the right room. That is true, but you have no track record, so...
You have to learn how to put yourself in the right room. You have to learn how to handle business on your own, how to negotiate for yourself.
Why would they put you in a room if they can't prove that you know what to do in the room?
There you go. I think in our case, I think the biggest point of a manager, one, is to make sure that they collect payment for you, and chase people down, because you don't want to chase people down. Number two is to have a third party talk you up. For example, it sounds way cooler to be like, DK charges this much insane amount of money because he's the best, versus me saying, I charge this much the same amount of money because I'm the best. There's that third party marketing, right? Where it's like you have someone third party say that, and then it's all of a sudden builds a lot more trust.
It's a professional wingman.
Yeah, professional wingman.
Yeah. Like, I like to be a wingman to my friends. It's always fun. But it's because the end result is usually a lot smoother.
Ooh, I'm adding. Can we do a side? I want to do a side. This will make the list number 8.
Okay.
I think this is really important. Not only did we say able to organize workloads, I think a sign of a maturing engineer and a maturing entrepreneur in the music space in general is being able to stand up for yourself.
Oh yeah.
Being able to say no to big things.
Yeah.
Being able to
know when to walk away.
Knowing when to walk away. It's not a matter, like, I feel like sometimes people walk away too soon because of pride, but it's not a matter of pride, it's a matter of boundaries. Like, you know what you can do. You know when you're gonna, if you take this on right now, nobody's gonna be happy because it's too much work. You know, vice versa.
I think another one is kind of like similar to knowing when to walk away or how to walk away. It's also understanding how to communicate through I guess you could say, an unideal situation. Unideal can mean anything. It could be a financial disagreement. It could be that either you're not getting paid enough or you haven't been paid yet. Split sheets have not been sent out. It could be anything that's a disagreement, or that is a point where you believe a certain boundary has been crossed. Knowing how to communicate in that moment and stand up for yourself is extremely powerful.
Oh, yeah. Even in general, I think that if you are experienced and someone challenged you on your price, let's say, for example, I charge $200 a song, and they're like, you charge $200? Can you do it for $100?
No.
And if that irks you, or if you fall into it, then those are signs that that you're not standing up for yourself. And the reason why I say irks you, like you feel like if you get upset by that, that means you are standing up for yourself. The reason why I say no is because you have enough experience to recognize that they probably don't mean ill will for it.
Yeah.
You recognize that you've probably failed to set the correct expectations to show them that you are more than worth $200.
Yeah.
If you are okay, so that's another thing. It shouldn't irk you. You shouldn't have that ego. That goes into the complaining bit. So there's a lack of ego with experience as well.
I feel like a good tell is when there's already been a planned response for those situations that is actually a lot more professional than it is emotional. For instance, anytime I'm willing to negotiate a drop in price, I usually ask for something of value in return that's usually more than what I'm dropping for. And it's not like, oh, pay me in this amount. It's no, give me 25% of your song. Why? Because if I'm going to discount 25% of my price, I should be able to reap 25% of the work put in.
If I'm working with an independent artist, I'm not going to lie to you. I say 100% until I'm paid in full.
Yeah, I say
100% of anything that you make until I make it full.
25% of life.
And then if they agree to it, I actually refuse to mix it. No, as in if they agree to it, then I'll be like, something's wrong.
Yeah,
I'm not doing it.
No, I say 25% for life because they're like, well, I don't know, because it feels like it might end up paying you more. It's like, yeah, that's the risk. That's exactly the risk. You could have paid me my full price, or we can win together. I don't mind eating alongside you, but if you're asking me to give you 25% of my food, then I expect 25% of yours.
There you go. Yeah, it's crazy, man. But I do think standing up for yourself, standing up for your price, standing up for your workload, standing up for your business, for your boundaries, for your personal life, not just business life, but your personal life as well.
A big one is
not letting people talk shit to you, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you call me while I'm at the gym and I'm mid lift or something like that, I'm sorry, it could be really important, but this time is kind of time reserved for myself. And sometimes you also need to make sure that that's respectfully communicated.
So that, yeah, it's not even about like going to the gym necessarily. It's about boundaries. And like you again, yeah, I like that where you said you have respect for yourself.
Yeah,
that's a sign of
it could be important, maturity. But can it wait an hour?
Yeah. And this is something that a CEO of one of my other companies, he said, in business, there's no such thing as emergencies. It can wait. Like if you call UPS, which is like a Monday through Friday, 9 through 5 service, you call them on a Saturday and you realize, oh my gosh, nobody's going to pick up the phone just for you because it's an emergency.
Yeah.
You have to be okay that you fucked up and you can't call them until Monday morning at 9 a.m. Yeah. And it's like you're mad for about 10 minutes and then you forget about it, and then you do it on Monday because you recognize, oh, that was what I said. So it's like being able to recognize that, right? Having respect for yourself, I think, is a huge sign. And that to be fair, sometimes learning to respect yourself and your own boundaries does come from a lot of self or from other people abuse. It comes from a lot of being taken advantage of, not really knowing what you're about.
There's a breaking point. If you haven't experienced it yet, you might want to push that situation.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about burnout in a second because that's going to be a fun one. But the next point that I want to add is something that you as well added to your list, which is being able to have better client experience. I worded it as being able to balance creative and service. Mm-hmm. So we've always hear on YouTube, on podcasts, that we work in a service industry. I've even heard people go as far as like, if you work in audio engineering, then you should it helps to have some sort of food industry serving type job.
Yeah.
Because it keeps you humble. It's really it's the worst. People are horrible. But you still have to learn to be resilient.
Yeah.
So what does it mean, Lou, when people say it's a service-based industry, what does that mean as an audio engineer?
So there's a difference between being I guess you could say, a product and a service provider. A product doesn't care if you have a good day or not. When you buy an iPhone, the iPhone doesn't give a shit. When you go to Apple and they sell you a phone, they give a shit. There's a difference. One is just an item that you can take. It's intangible. Whatever you tell it to do, it will do. If it doesn't do it, probably broke. But when you go to the Apple store and they ask you, well, what kind of phone do you want? What color would you like? What is your everyday job? What kind of usage are you going to be putting into it? Let's make sure that this is the right one. Reason being is that not everybody is going to be the same. Now, not everybody has the same personality either. Somebody might just say, well, I just want a fucking iPhone. It doesn't matter what color it is. I just want an iPhone. But knowing that you have to stay respectful and understand, look, this is not a personal thing against me. This is not anything that's even worth me arguing right now. But nonetheless, we still have to do our job. So whether the client is being difficult or not, it's understanding that at the end of the day, you're being paid to do a job. So whether you are personally offended by something, it's knowing how to actually move away from outwardly showing that. I think it's good to actually communicate, hey, you know what? I don't necessarily agree with this. I don't think this is the right product for you, or this may not be the right service provider for you. But outwardly showing aggression or any kind of emotional instability is not the route you want to go.
That's true. I think, again, going back to the humility thing, what we do, we mix records, right?
Yeah.
Like, we make, in the restaurant, we make salads.
Yeah.
We put together the salads.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
If somebody says they don't like olives,
really, people aren't going to the restaurant to eat a salad. They're going for the experience.
Yeah.
They want to feel welcomed. People want to relax. People want to have a good time. It's the experience. The salad is just part of the experience.
Oh yeah.
And so that's part of that service thing. Like, your mix, whether it's good or not, is obviously important.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not half as important as your ability to make sure that the client has a good time.
Yeah.
That you recognize the balance between them always being right and they're also paying for your professional experience.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you disagree, to balance and correctly, succinctly, respectfully say, I disagree and here's why. Let's try it.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to recognize when you're wrong. It's you're catering and creating an experience for your customers or for your clients, and that is more important than whether or not you make a good fucking salad.
Yeah. A good example of this actually happened the other day. Not to me, but it was the person in front of me at Mountain View Tires over in Eagle Rock. One of the guys behind the counter was talking to the client, and the client's like, and I had just walked in at this point of the conversation, so there was no context from before it. But I really liked the way the guy communicated this, where the guy says, he looks at the invoice, he's like, and this is for the bigger tires? He's like, no, I don't really recommend that you go with those tires because of your car. He's like, oh, okay. Well, the thing is, I actually wanted the bigger tires. He's like, just out of curiosity, why did you want the bigger tires? He's like, because I want the car ride to be smoother in my car. Thing to note, he has a Tesla. Tesla bodies are all manufactured the same.
There's EV tires are specific, and
Exactly.
they have sound dampening in them.
So if you were to go with a larger tire and you were to turn,
It'd be louder and it would graze up against the body. Yeah.
exactly, causing damage to what? The car itself, right? The whole idea was to make the car a smoother ride, but in result, you're going to end up damaging it. So instead of the guy telling him like, hey, you're stupid, don't do that, like, manufacturer doesn't say anything, he's like, hey, listen, just so you know, that has more to do with your shocks than your tires. He's like, oh, but I already replaced my shocks. I wanted to try the new tires. He's like, okay, we can do it if you'd like. I just want you to know two things. This is not manufacturer recommended, and I, as a human being, would actually highly recommend that you stay away from this because I don't want you to go home with a damaged car. As soon as you get home, you will have a missing bumper. He's like, but you guys would do it anyways, right? And he's like, yes, but I would not recommend it whatsoever. In fact, I would almost rather recommend you to someone else who is willing to do it because I would rather you have a good experience here than walk away with a broken car.
And what did he say? What's the end of that story?
He took the invoice. He's like, thank you, I'll consider it, and left.
Okay, cool. So we don't know what happened.
We don't know what happened, but the way he handled the communication made it to where he was more willing to just say, I would rather pass on the money than give you a bad product.
Yeah.
And sometimes that level of communication is what's needed.
I do see a lot of like Facebook amateurs, like audio engineer amateurs on Facebook that ask questions like, I don't want to work with this client anymore. I don't want to put them on their portfolio because I think that what they're doing is so bad that I don't even want to put my name on it. I think that's too far. And that's a matter of ego. You need to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a shit whether your name is on a bad album or not. I
hate to admit this, but like,
it doesn't matter.
I'm just gonna admit it. Most people don't check the credits. Like the consumer usually doesn't.
No, yeah, and more importantly, this is again something that we said on a previous episode. If the shitty client with the shitty record and something that you're super not proud of has a great time, they're still gonna recommend you to other people.
Yeah.
So it's like, And that recommendation goes way better than having a good sounding record and them not liking you or them feeling neutral about you.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you right now, it's the experience. Yeah, and that's a specific example of like standing up for yourself and sharing, because that would hurt the client. The problem with mixing, and the reason, my only caveat to that story is that with mixing, with audio, with music, everything is super subjective.
Exactly.
So it's like there is no manufacturer's recommended. It's more like there's cultures and you'd be going against the culture, but that's also how you make hit records, is going a little bit against the culture.
I mean, think about most groundbreaking records. They were groundbreaking because there was nothing like
There's
it.
like fusions of stuff, right? Yeah, of course. So I think that's an important part to make. Being able to balance client expectations, the service side of it, as well as creativity. Being able to still not being someone that just bends to everybody's will, you know, but being able to still be creative, but still recognize the lines of like, okay, I can be creative here, but also like I'm here to provide a service. So that's huge, super huge. Okay, this is one that's gonna rub everybody wrong in the wrong way, and I love it. If you're good, you're not worrying about plugin settings. You're not worrying about plugins at all. I have a lot of plugins, and I use a lot of obscure ones. People ask me all the time while they're watching me mix, what plugin is that? What plugin is that? I actually, honestly, I don't even think about what plugins I'm pulling up. I'm thinking about the sounds that I want, and I'm instinctively pulling up some tools that I know that work to create that sound, and I'm also aware enough to recognize that it didn't work. If it doesn't work, it's not working. I'm recognized. But I feel like you have to learn the tools. You have to get over the valley of technical skill, right?
Yeah.
You got to practice those scales if you're an instrumental, if you're a piano player. You got to practice those scales. You got to know your scales. You got to go through that valley. But then there's going to be a point where it's like, I think if you're thinking about your tools, overthinking about the tools that you use, and you think that's the sauce, I would like to think that you're not doing well. Like it's not a great engineer, if you're on the right track, a great landmark to figure out whether or not you're doing right is that you found yourself not even thinking about what plugins you're using, and definitely not thinking about a specific setting that you're using. No. It's just automatic. You're just not even, you're not thinking about it.
So it's kind of funny because you see this a lot in live sound where there's kind of elitism behind the console that you use. I think there's many great consoles out there, but you see people talking about like the Waves LV1 or the SSL live sound console or the Soundcraft, the Yamaha, this and that. And what's funny is I'm a big backer of the Yamaha brand when it comes to live consoles because it's simple. It doesn't really have the extreme plugin usage. You can actually do it. There's all kinds of things you can expand with it. But the point of this notion is that like we had a guy the other day that came by, really cool guy, but I could tell right away that something was going to be off when I noticed that he was using the Waves LV1, and every single channel on the console actually had like 5 to 10 plugins.
Holy shit.
Running for a live show for just a vocalist, a backing vocalist, a guitarist, and a DJ. And I was like, when did the DJ, who has already produced tracks, really need this many plugins? Once we started getting through soundcheck, first thing I noticed is he was immediately getting feedback. And it took about 3 hours to remove that feedback. When we did the original line check of everything, we had 0 feedback. It was one of those things where he blindly relied on his originally queued up audio, but went into a new room, not realizing that that new room was going to sound different than what their sound check at a rehearsal venue was going to sound like. And because of that, he ended up walking into a ton of problems that he had to now walk back. And then soundcheck took 2 hours longer than it needed to.
Okay, so flexibility, being malleable. Not only is that a sign of low EQ, but that shows a sign of, low IQ, but it's also a sign of immaturity. Yeah, for sure. Being set in your ways, having to use the same plugins every single time. Yes, we have habits. Yes, I use the similar plugins every single time on some of these tracks. I like the same tools, but it's. I'm not stuck to them. I'm not married to them. I'm willing to accept when it's not working. That's a great example of that. Like that caused more problems, but they and sometimes these systems, these super technical systems does solve a lot of problems, but in this case, it was a matter of pride.
Yeah, because I would not fault him if it was the same line array system that he used before, if it was the same mics, the same in-ears,
venue, the
same monitors.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. It was monitors he didn't use. Apparently, he hadn't used them all tour long. He had not used the QSC line array system that whole year. Not only that, but he had not been using Sennheiser mics or in-ear systems. He had been using almost exclusively Shure for the entire tour, which means that everything would have actually sounded completely different, which means using the same template, so to speak, was actually the wrong approach.
I think to wrap up this section before we move on to the next one, to wrap it up, if you are still arguing about which DAW is more superior and switching between, if you think, if the word DAW is in your vocabulary recently, then you are probably extremely inexperienced. Because I can't tell you the last time I thought, oh my gosh, I use Pro Tools, and that's a thought that I have.
Yeah. Anytime I talk to a mastering engineer that tells me that they master in like Cubase or Pro Tools or anything, it's all the same to me. Reason being is that their end result speaks for itself.
Yeah, like that's not a thought. Like if you have the time to worry about whether or not which DAW works for you, that means you haven't had enough experience on one specific DAW and you haven't had enough experience where you still have the time and the emotional energy left to still fear, have FOMO. It's like, what am I missing out on these other DAWs? Yeah. It's like, if you're experienced enough, like, it doesn't matter what you're missing out on. It's like, you just stay hyper-focused. That's a sign of maturity as well. So we're going to, it's a great sign that you're on the right track. This is the one that I want to talk about. Okay. The next point here. This is about burnout. And this is, okay, I'm going to word it like this. Every creative, everybody that's hardworking, workaholics, everybody at some point has a high risk of burning out. Yeah. Almost everybody burns out at some point or gets really close to completely burning out and quitting.
I wouldn't even say almost everybody. I'd say everybody.
Okay, what I'm not going to say is that burning out is a sign of maturity, but I am going to say that the sign of maturity and a sign of great work is someone that has gone past the hole called burnout and is still somehow able to balance getting excited. Yeah. It's like, even though this is the most bullshit thing I've ever done, I'm not making enough money, these clients are the worst, whatever, you still are capable of getting excited because at the end of the day, even after burning out, you still fucking love music. Yep. That is a huge sign.
There's a couple things you can put into play to help you out. Some of them have to do with the work itself, and some of them don't have anything to do with the work. I would venture to say that us doing our own like fitness things, like I go to the gym, you do running. Would you not say that that also completely emotionally separates you from your work of the day?
Oh, yeah. Or just like what I work on, the type of music that I work on versus the type of music that I personally enjoy, totally different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I went through a pretty bad burnout recently, to the point where I actually opted to start denying work that did not suit any kind of emotional value for a little bit. I still take on work that, even if I don't want to do it, it's work nonetheless. Who gets hired at a job and says, I don't feel like coming in today, and your boss not fire you, right? But for some people, it's getting away, taking a break, having different hobbies outside of it. Some people need to take time away from the projects that they're not really inspired by. And that's kind of the sign that you're kind of starting to feel like, okay, it's not that I want to walk away. I just need to be a little more in control of how this is affecting me and how often it affects me.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think the skill of staying excited past burnout is crucial. I mean, I'm thinking about the greats of the greats. Yeah. I mean, imagine someone like Tony Maserati. You see interviews with him today. There's no doubt that man has been burned out. That guy has been doing so much work for so long that there has to be a point where he's like, this is cutting close to my limit. Yeah. He's probably hit his limit multiple times. Anybody that has made a living with any sort of creative entrepreneurial endeavor has hit burnout. Yeah. Or gotten close to it. But still, when you hear Tony talk about music on these interviews, on these short Instagram, YouTube clips, you can tell the dude gets excited.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's the same thing like even with podcasters, we're outside of music in any sort of creative endeavor, you could tell when someone's excited. And it's the people that are able to somehow balance their excitement and their original passion for the love, along with the difficulty and the problems that comes with doing it for a living, is a great sign of integrity, emotional security, maturity, as well as you're doing well. Like, I think that's a sign that you're doing well and that you're on the right path, right? Which is the point of this episode. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've gone through complete and total burnout because I'm a fucking workaholic.
Yeah.
I do not know how to slow down. I only know how to ramp up. If you're wondering how much so, I don't usually flex this sort of stuff, but this last week was my birthday. And I don't know how to slow down so much that I ran 30 miles for my 30th birthday, and I turned 30 last week. That is more than a marathon.
I woke up that morning, I'm like, I give up already.
Yeah, there you go. I was running 30 miles. I actually ended up running 31 because go fucking one more, right? But I ran 31 miles for my 30th birthday while people were still recovering from drinking too much, poisoning themselves too much the night before. Like,
was me.
That's so it's like there's this thing. What I'm not recommending is for you to become a workaholic, but what I am recommending is that a great sign and something that you should strive for is that after you burn out, which everybody does, you're not special for burning out. After you burn out, can you still have the power? Can you find the power to keep going? Do you love it that much? I think everybody and their dog is like, I'd be willing to do anything to be in the music industry. I mean, think about all the interns that's like works with us, and they're like, I'm willing to do anything. I'm willing to suck dick to be in the music industry full time, but I'm not willing to clean your fucking toilets twice.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, shit sucks. You know it sucks. Before you got into it, you didn't get into the music industry because you thought it was going to be easy. Like, you understood there was this thing. You understood that it was going to be difficult.
Yeah.
Embrace it. Take responsibility and figure out a way to still find enjoyment out of it. Do you find I know for a fact that the music you work on is different from the music that you enjoy, and that's totally okay.
It's actually kind of hilarious because a lot of people
Sometimes it
view them
lines
as
up.
like polar opposites, but like this past weekend, Bob Horn recommended a session to us, and it was with this artist named Matt Gallica, who, funny enough, my best friend, the day before he moved recently, last thing he did in LA was go see a band called Ghost. It's a metal band. Turns out Matt Gallica was the keyboardist for the band at that
Mad Gallica.
Yeah. She was the keyboardist for the band at that show.
For Metallica?
No.
I'm kidding.
But it was really funny because it was one of those where Ian, who interns for us, like, he's recently been doing electronic music, but he actually started off as the one kid at school that only does electronic music that didn't do electronic music, but now he's doing electronic music. I'm the guy that grew up listening to metal and now does like hip hop R&B, and that's where most of my credits are at. But here I am, like, sitting in a session doing like rock opera stuff and just having a blast listening to like these massive stacked vocals, and I'm like, oh, I'm in my bubble right now. Oh, this session is just heavenly.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because what I'm not alluding to is the idea that you have to keep your personal tastes and your work tastes separate. I think that's more of a side effect of knowing what you like and being able to
adapt.
Like, because here's the thing. I used to have, there was when I did marriage counseling. So I did marriage counseling before we got married. I care way too much about people. I'm like, really. I know that's crazy to you now because I've hardened up a lot since we've met, but I used to care way too much about people. I hated confrontation. I hated making people unhappy. I was a people pleaser. Now I'm just fucking honest, no matter how difficult it is, and you know that.
It's a much more relieving lifestyle, isn't it?
Oh, so on a personal level, yeah, it's so much more relieving. I had the stress of caring about people. Anyway, I had the way that the therapist or our friend would talk about this would be like, everybody has a certain amount of emotional dollars every day. And you can, if you spend it on listening to someone else trauma dump on you, then you're not going to have enough by the time you get home to talk to your wife. You're not going to have enough emotional dollars to spend on her.
Yeah.
And at that time, I cared so much about everybody else. And like people are having a hard time, I would go out of my way to try to, help them out, which, I still try to do, but I'm a lot more wary of how much emotional dollar I have.
Yeah.
He would say that I had a hole in my pocket, and emotional dollars, money just kept draining out, and I wasn't even noticing it.
Yeah.
And so I was just emotionally drained. And I think that's the point that I'm doing too. Like, it's not that you don't spend your emotional money helping people. It's the fact that you're more aware of how much you do have, and you spend your emotional dollars very wisely.
Yeah.
I need to spend it on my clients today. My son is having a birthday. I need to spend it on him. I know that my wife is going through some stuff right now. I need to spend it with her. And then, yes, I have a friend who wants a mix done, and I'm willing to do it for free. I'm going to spend a little bit there because I have enough left over. It's more about, so it's, what you're talking about, like tastes being different from what you work on, is more of a side effect or as
it's kind of a
secondary
a funny
outcome.
end result.
Yeah. It's not what's intended. It's an unintentional outcome.
Yeah.
It's not. So what we're trying to say is you know your emotional money that you have, and you spend it wisely. And that goes into boundaries too in general.
It's a funny, beautiful twist about that though. Like when you end up working on a genre you didn't intend to work on, it's the ultimate sign that somebody gave you their trust, even if you weren't the one that was, I guess, a listener of their genre. To
be honest, I get extra excited over weird music and music that I don't
outsider music.
Yeah, even outsider music. But I mean, I get weirdly excited over songs that most people would say no to.
Yeah.
Like, I get weirdly excited. I think it's like kind of like a hero complex a little bit.
Is it like the challenge?
I think it is the challenge.
It's the Zelda puzzle.
Yeah, it's the challenge of like, can I do this? Yeah. And it's fun. Or more importantly, it's like in my mind, I've created a reality where it is fun, because in the opposite sense, I could very easily turn and look at it and be like, no fucking way I'm doing this.
Yeah.
But I'm also saving enough emotional dollars where I can be able to enjoy a challenge, right? Yeah. So I think that's what it comes down to. There's two more points that we want to make. The last one is a controversial point, and we're going to openly on air talk about why or why not. We're going to debate. But this last one here, the last poignant point.
Poignant point.
Is
if
you're doing well, your money, most of your money is coming from returning clients.
Yeah.
That's a sign that you're doing well.
Yeah.
I would say if your business is set up to most of your income is coming from first-time clients, you're either inexperienced or you're a fucking liar, because you give them a shitty product and they don't come back.
Yeah.
So you're over promising. Over promising, under delivering.
Yeah. So I actually met somebody who kind of had that as a weird flex. He was talking about how he has like 2 or 3 new clients every week. And I kind of thought about that. I was like,
which can be good. It
can be good. But when you think about 2-3 new clients a week, we're talking about how many weeks in a year? 56, right? So let's just say it's 2. That's 112 new clients per year.
Hold on. Oh, is it 54? Hold on.
Weeks? Is it 54 or 56?
Oh my gosh, I'm blanking.
Weeks in a year. Okay.
52.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what
so let's say it's 2 new clients a week, right? That's 104 mixes a year. Let's say that you're charging $300. That's what, 30 grand?
$300 times 100. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, it's about 30 grand. That's not bad for new client revenue, right? But he never ever spoke about like working with the same client twice. Like, he had like bigger credits, but then as he started doing these promotions, I noticed that he was offering like $100 mixes. I was like, wait,
yeah,
why are you only charging $100 per mix? And they were only $100.
You do not offer
2-3 new clients per week. I'm like, okay, so if it's 100, we're only talking about 10 grand a year. This guy drives a Tesla. I'm like, there's no way this is the majority of his money. It's got to be something else. Only then did I find out from somebody else like a year later
that he's selling crack to buy that Tesla?
No. That it was his interns mixing it, and he would just slap his name on it And one of the people that I found this out from was a friend of mine that I ended up being the mixer for.
Surprisingly, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Until you find out that the guy's Grammy-winning multi-platinum.
I'm still cool with that.
Yeah.
Even more, I'm actually more cool with that if he's doing that well.
Yeah, but there was no promoting of who's doing the mix. It was just, hey, I'll mix your songs. The marketing saying, I will mix your songs, but he never touched it.
I think that is actually really genius, a great way to scale. But I do think it's interesting. And then that's different because you're talking about an experienced cat who has a name. He's created a name.
Yeah.
And then he's monetizing his name by outsourcing work.
Okay.
Using his name. But
the issue is not that he's outsourcing the work. It's that the quality is bad.
So people aren't coming back.
No.
And that's going to bite him in the butt in the future.
Oh, it already has. I've noticed that he's completely stopped marketing it, and to the point where like he's lost a good chunk of his reputation over it.
That's the great thing about capitalism is that there's going to be people that take advantage of people, psychopaths that really take advantage of the system. But the cool thing about it is that people that are offering shitty products and doing a shitty job, eventually, it may take a long time, but they're eventually going to fail.
Yeah.
And that is the one sure thing about capitalism is that if you have a shitty product or you're not willing to pivot with the times, if you're not willing to innovate, you are going to fail, which is great.
You can have a great product, but if you oversell and underdeliver it.
That's why, I mean, like, we were doing One Bite reviews with Dave Portnoy. I was, like, watching a few of them yesterday. He's like, one of the shops that he gave his highest review on is like, you can tell this pizza's going to be good because they don't have a telephone number. You can't order before, and you can't buy individual slices. You can only buy the whole pie. Like, that is the worst customer service ever, and they've been around for decades. You know this shit is going to be good because, like, it's so good that they don't have to pivot. They don't have to innovate. They don't have to modernize anything.
Yeah.
And people they still make money. I mean, if they did have a telephone number, if they did do all this stuff, I mean, with making pizzas, there's like limits. You can't scale. Like you can only hire so many people and run such a big.
You can only make so many per hour.
Yeah, exactly. But the point is, it's like you got to have a fucking good product. And the problem with mixing is that there's no such thing as like an objectively greater pizza that can withstand decades without having a phone number.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna, as a mixer, you're gonna in this scenario here, you're gonna have to get a phone number. You're gonna have to get a website. You're gonna have to keep doing this. You have to keep innovating, and you have to keep growing your business. Okay. Anyway, I'm kind of getting on a big tangent here, but that's a really good point. And the point of this one, the last point is returning clients. I've heard a phrase, money is made not from new clients, but from returning ones.
Yeah.
That is true. I mean, if you think about barbers, it takes so much work to constantly have a flow of new clients.
Yeah.
It's so much easier. You build rapport, you build trust. It's way easier to have returning clients. And during the growing phase, and even now, like I have new clients every single day, but it's for the same A&R.
Yeah.
It's the same producer. Sometimes I get a chance to win over a producer, but that's few and far between. Most of my money is the same producers every single time, the same artists every single time. And I've never made as much money as I do now, and with the least amount of change, you know? And I've had, like, don't get me wrong, every year I get new clients, but my income is not based on new clients. It's mostly based on returning ones.
See, and that's where I hate to say, but it definitely inflates my ego every once in a while whenever I think about like how mine is, because I don't really promote that much. I'm very bad at social media, but thankfully the people that I've worked with over the years, I just treat them the way they honestly deserve to be treated most times. Like, and I say most times because I know I can drop the ball sometimes. You know, I'm not a perfect person. I don't think anybody is. So there's going to be issues.
My wife is perfect.
Oh, okay. There you go. Mine farts once in a while. And they're smelly, but I love them. But no, like honestly speaking, like you can't expect to hit the mark 100% of the time. As long as you're hitting it 99% of the time, 98% of the time, then you're good. Once you start losing 5%, you got to shape up, right? But you know, I can confidently say that some of the biggest deals I've ever made in my life are always based on word of mouth. I don't think I've ever landed a massive deal based off of cold calls or anything.
Yeah, in fact, that's kind of like a red flag. If I get an email and it says, "I don't know anybody that you know," I just Google searched you
Yeah.
That's a huge red flag for
Like
me.
if I get a message on Instagram from a studio saying like, hey, if you're ever interested in booking studio time with us, just so you know, an engineer comes with the first session. It's like, one, I'm an engineer. And two, I own a multi-room studio. You obviously didn't even look at who I am.
Yeah.
Like, think about that. Like, if you're out there trying to look for new clients and you've already started off without even just getting to know them first before messaging them, it's kind of a red flag.
Yeah, and I think this is just, it's common sense stuff that people are kind of forgetting about. Returning clients, man, continue. And again, that comes from being humble, being service oriented, being
making
passionate.
sure their experience is great.
Yeah, and I think if you do everything that we said before, you will have returning clients.
Yeah.
Returning clients is a sign that you are doing well.
Yeah.
Lastly, this is interesting. This is an interesting one. We wrote down being requested to be a mentor.
Yeah.
Being requested or having people ask you questions. And this is not just a debate about whether or not that's a sign that you're doing well, but also I'm going to have some commentary about the people asking.
Yeah.
People ask the requesting party. So yeah, you're on the side of that's a sign, and I'm purposely gonna be devil's advocate and
Sure.
debate against you on this one. Why is being asked to be a mentor a good thing? Why is that good?
It's
I think
because your public image has increased. Whether that be 1% or 50%, whatever it is.
your imaging, your branding, the trust. Okay, you have enough trust just going into it.
Yeah, because people are looking at you as a source of trusted information and practices. And they want to acquire said information and sense of practice, right? So they're looking to you to actually help them grow. So you are now a beacon of growth. In their eyes, at the very least. Whether that's true or not, it's there in their eyes. Being asked to become somebody's mentor is actually it's humbling, and it's also intimidating. Reason being is you have to challenge yourself even more now to really prove that you should be anybody's mentor at all.
The fact that you said those two words, that's a really healthy relationship to be, because on the opposite hand, you can have someone that's fucking prideful and it's like, no, I'm the best, of course.
Yeah, but then they don't really know shit.
Yeah.
The humbling
You
part
should
of it
be
is
feeling,
like,
intimidated.
wait, you want me to mentor you? Like, the fuck do I have to offer you? Like, I'm still trying to figure this out. But I'm a big believer that you don't know something unless you can teach it to a 5-year-old, right? So if somebody is kind of putting in their trust in you to be able to teach them, you also need to make sure that you really know what you're talking about, because you could guide somebody down the wrong path.
Also, I will challenge you on this, because if you can teach compression to my 5-year-old, I will be so happy.
Actually, I can. And
I'm teasing.
we just need a teddy bear.
I'm teasing. But,
I have a really sad example of a clipper with a teddy bear.
Oh my gosh, just ripping its head off.
Yes. Just like, all right, this is the threshold of the clipper. It's the scissors. Here's Teddy. He passed the scissors.
Anyway, but yeah, no, being asked to mentor can be intimidating.
Yeah.
But you have control. You're also confident.
Yeah. You now actually have a situation where you might actually have an extra hand to help you grow as well.
I like the idea that it's a sign of progress, because I think like trust is earned, but also sometimes trust is given if you have great marketing and PR. So the reason why posting on TikTok, posting on YouTube, posting on Instagram works so well is that you're creating avenues, you're giving information freely, you're showing that you know what to do, you're kind of being assertive, and you're generating trust. So you have an image of trust before anybody's actually worked with you.
Yeah.
And that, again, everything that we do is breaking down the barrier of trust. You're just right. If you are being asked to mentor, that's a sign that you're doing the right thing, because you at least have an image of trustworthiness, an image of responsibility, an image that you know what the fuck is going on, which I think is really valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly speaking, some of the most rewarding things that you can do in this career is be able to help another person start theirs. There's actually a really good sense of pride when you can say, it's like, oh, like, so like if you were to, follow the practice and just give it time, I can assure you that like things will go well. And I know that's like a blind statement because you can't guarantee anything, but you can at least guarantee like, hey, if you have the practice, if you have these, I guess you could say like these habits, then typically you'll be better off than most, right?
Yeah.
And then later on, it takes time, but seeing people grow into who they become is actually a really sweet trade-off. Like, you don't get anything from mentorships. Like, there's some programs out there that, yes, will charge you for a mentor. Like, the Recording Connection will charge you to be an intern, which is the dumbest fucking thing in the world.
That's funny.
Like, I wrote a curriculum for them,
but I mean, that's how valuable an internship
like, they're
is.
great, right?
Yeah.
And it's a worthwhile education because they can put you in a room that otherwise you wouldn't be qualified for. For instance, you can actually pay to be Dave Pensado's intern.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's not cheap. But the reality is the trade-off there is access to the room, right? But the only thing that school can't guarantee is that you'll be allowed to stay in the room after that. It's all about the practice and the habits that you have. But part of being somebody's mentor is helping them develop the ones that can actually get them into the room that they want to be in. You may not always have the resources required to actually get them to where they want to go, but at the very least, you can help them develop the habits and the skill sets that can help them better qualify to be in the right room. You can at least be the one that can help them, jumpstart their career.
Yeah.
And we've seen it a lot in our own studio. And that's why I say, like, a good sign of growth is being asked to be somebody's mentor, because that also means that you're at a stage where you need to kind of own up and say, I'm not ready to be able to lead, and I still have much more to grow, or I'm going to take this responsibility and make it part of my chapter.
Yeah. I do think it's a good idea where if you are being asked if they can intern for you, I think it's a good idea to create system. That's what we've done. That's how we keep our studio afloat.
Yeah.
Is we've spent hundreds of hours, potentially thousands of hours working on making sure the intern program is as high quality as possible.
And maybe
not thousands, definitely hundreds.
Well, I would actually agree to that in one sense, where it's like, right away, whatever system you put in place is going to have flaws. Every system has flaws. I know ours still does.
You have to continue to pivot.
Yeah, so the only way you're going to figure out what those flaws are is by putting time and recognizing what those flaws are and putting time into correcting them or finding solutions, even if it's in the meantime or a permanent one.
Yeah, how do you know if your sights are aligned until you shoot one?
Yeah, exactly.
And then you have to realign, right? Okay, so I'm arguing, saying that that's not necessarily a sign of success.
Yeah.
Because, and this is a warning to both parties here, on the party of the one receiving the request, the cool thing about what we do is that everybody wants to do it because it's cool.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to do it. And I know some people that kind of let that get to their heads, or they fail miserably and they're not able to provide the service that they wanted to, so then they start to feel insecure about it. There's two camps of that. Most people are okay, but that is something to be aware about. Number two, and this is for the asking party. This is for the asking part, the person asking for mentorship and internships. One, recognize that not everybody has the time. Expect more no's than yeses. And number two, do your research. Meaning, and this is a challenge that I say often on this podcast. I am, for the sake of argument, right? As a professional podcaster, I'm making money from ad revenue, right? And from these exclusive content that we release every Wednesdays and Thursdays. Go to mixingmusicpodcast.com/exclusive for technical tips on how to make your mix better. Okay, but anyway, the point is, you should be wary about me. And I've created a PR brand that shows what the fuck I'm doing. But I'm going to be honest with you. When I first started, I thought I knew what I was doing, but I was a little bit, not acting, because I really was genuinely delusional enough to think that I knew everything what was going on. But I learned quickly that I have a lot more to learn and grow. And now when I speak, I challenge you. If you are questioning whether or not I'm a valid source for information, which you should be doing. You should always be questioning whether someone is a valid source of information. Go listen to my fucking portfolio. Go to Spotify. Go on my website. Look at my client list. Listen to my portfolio. Do my mixes sound good? And if you do not, I leave the right to you. If you do not think they sound good, then I would heavily suggest you find information someone else, by someone that you do respect, or at least take into consideration my results so the advice that I give versus the results that you want. The person that you do not, like as a parent, the person that I do not want advice from is the guy who had kids that were depressed and suicidal. I do not want to have parenting advice from that guy, even if he's willing to give it. Even if he's first in line, especially if he's first in line to want to give that. I do not want to listen to that advice. So this is the same thing with mixing. If you ever question anything that I do, if you hear me say that linear phase on the FabFilter fucking sucks and is the worst thing that you can do, and you're like, but everybody on TikTok told me that linear phase is better. First off, read the manual, because the manual says it's not better. Number two, listen to my portfolio. Take the time to figure out whether or not I'm good or not. And here's the thing. I'm going to talk my shit right now. Anybody that has is a bigger fan of the podcast. I'm going to say that out loud right now. Anybody that has taken the time to listen to my portfolio is a bigger fan of the podcast than anybody else. By the way, podcast and my portfolio is constantly updated. It's got a lot of cool songs on there, a lot of crazy songs, a lot of really mainstream songs, a lot of really normie songs, really weird songs, a very diverse set of portfolio there. And I'm always updating it. I got like 100+ followers on Spotify for it. I don't have it on Apple Music, I'm sorry, or Tidal or anything else. But yeah.
Mine's on Tidal, so I'm on the losing side.
Yeah, there you go. Mine's like publicly available. Anyway, do that. And I think that's more, there's a book that I read, and a crazy statistic, something like over 90% of professional speakers about wealth, people that speak on how to earn enough money, how to make more money, how to earn the lifestyle of your dreams. People that professionally tour and speak on how to do that. Like, it was like close to 90% of those people don't have what they're teaching. Mm-hmm. So like they make money from teaching it, but they themselves don't have what it's like an astounding, scary amount.
Yeah, I was about to say 90% oddly feels comfortably fitting, just because we're in entertainment. And we kind of understand that sometimes you just need a front man for the business, but that's still really sad to hear. It's really sad. Because think about all the YouTube ads that you see, all the Instagram ads. It's like, let me tell you how I made $500,000 selling condoms. I don't know. It could be something. It could be something really weird. But like, there's always like it's always a get rich quick scheme and sex sells. I hate to say it, but it does.
Get rich quick. That's my grandpa. His biggest flaw is that he always thought that he was the smartest in the room, and because of that, he'd always fall for the get rich quick scheme. And he never got out of debt until he was like 84. My dad bailed him out. Just like perpetually poor, because two things. He always thought that he was smarter than everybody else, and he always went for the get rich quick schemes because of that. Yeah. Okay. First off, that is a sign of the time as well. I'm not gonna go on anymore, but this is
it's quite the list.
It's quite the list, dude. So I think that you should fact check. I think you should. So if you are seeking for mentorship, make sure that you like that person. Yeah. Make sure that person is actually doing the mixes.
Yeah.
Lou was talking about earlier, that you like that person's mixes and not their intern's work. But I think that's why, and that's part of the reason why I think that I'm doing well, and I know it, and I'm able to talk this much shit on a podcast. I will say the one thing though is that there's also, in what we do, there's so much nuance. There's no objective truth. This isn't science. There's so much nuance, and so where does my confidence come from? My confidence and my surety that I'm right doesn't come from me actually being factually correct.
Yeah,
it comes from just peer review.
Yeah,
I've had a lot of happy clients. I make money. I do well. People listen to the pod, and that has led to me being like super open about my portfolio. Go to my website, go to my portfolio, just listen. There's no objective end goal.
So I wonder, and we can say like one sentence about this. I wonder if we missed one.
What?
A lot of people in a beginning stage have a toxic competitive nature versus a healthy competitive nature, meaning that they'll look at another studio or another engineer and just talk shit infinitely. You might not like every studio you run into or every engineer you run into, but it'd be a waste of time. It'd be a waste of time for like you not to want to be friends with your competition, even if that's the case, right? Like part of inflated ego is also recognizing, or the inability to recognize that your mutual love for your work with somebody else in this industry could actually benefit you more than you talking shit or trying to ignore that person or trying to one up that person on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I want to summarize it by saying that if you're doing well, then the more you realize, not only, so going back to point number 2, which is less complaining, you stop complaining, but I think a sign of stopping complaining and what you're talking about is abundance mentality. Yeah. I'm not going to get into abundance mentality versus scarcity mentality. YouTube it, Google it. I know a lot of people kind of understand the general idea of that. But if you are doing well, then the idea that there's not enough money in this industry, the idea that there's too much supply of engineers and not enough demand for engineering work, those ideas don't scare you, because at the end of the day, you know that you provide something cool, you're competitive, and that it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
And those are signs that you're doing well. Here's the thing. Factually speaking, there's the least amount of money in the music industry compared to any other industry. Like, the only other industry that could be doing worse is like
voice acting or
carbon fiber shoes. Okay, that's, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Voice acting for Instagrammers?
Carbon fiber clothing. Voice acting for, no, that has a, anyway, that's, you have to be super specific, but there's no, okay. Anyway, but here's the thing. If you let that get to you, you're probably not going to do well. Here's the thing. I think that's both chicken before the egg. I think that's both. Like, I think it's a sign that you're not doing well, but it's also what you're doing is you're also saying affirmations that you will not do well. Yeah. You are proclaiming to the world that you are unable to do it and that you are giving up.
Yeah.
So you are affirming that you're not going to do well, but it's also a sign that you are currently not doing well. So, for example, people who constantly hate on the general idea of the rich are literally cursing themselves to stay poor forever.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally just affirming that you're going to stay in poverty.
Yeah.
That's what it is. There's no other way to look at it.
The more you talk about something, the more you actually, whether intentional or unintentionally, move towards that direction. The more you say you hate the color blue, the more you avoid it just out of wanting to keep true to what you said in the past, rather than being willing and open to trying to see the way of liking the color blue.
Yeah. So I think that's the last note is it's okay to have that abundance mentality. It's okay. It's true. There's not a lot of money in our industry, but there's always a blue ocean out there that you can dip your toes into. There's red ocean
friends that can pay for their mortgage and feed their family in this industry. You can find a way too. Just because they have a few more higher end clients just means that they've been around for a little bit longer and built a little more trust, and they've consistently been putting out a quality output with a great experience to their clients. Does not mean that you will not have a chance with the future artistry or whoever you're working with.
So, I mean, obviously will probably come with sacrifice, but that's definitely possible. I mean, ever since we had, so for 5 years now, I have been the single breadwinner, making all of my money from independent artists. Until recently, it was mostly independent artists, 80% independent artists for the last 4 years up until this last year. And I was the single breadwinner. We never went into debt. We were able to make money. We were able to live and move to LA. There's sacrifices, terrible, lifestyle sacrifices that I had to make. But it's possible. Like, oh man, I have so much passion about like the people that go and hate on Dave Ramsey when he gives like, hey, if you're living in LA and you're making $6,000, you could be saving tens of thousands of dollars every single year. And people are like, well, $6,000 in LA is poverty. You can't possibly do that. Yeah, if you fucking stop going out to eat, holy shit. I'm living proof that you can do that with like $30,000-$40,000. Like, I've done that before.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe not tens of thousands of dollars in savings, but definitely not something small either. Anyway,
it's so easy to spend $300 on a dinner for two in LA.
That is an insane amount. I've never spent that much money on dinner. So easy is a big word. Hold on. Easy is a big, strong word for that because I've never even gotten half of that before. I've gone out to sushi and I haven't even paid for that much with a family of 4. Yeah. Holy shit. It is easy to spend $300 on dinner in LA.
I specifically say in LA because there's a lot of, yes, budget-friendly restaurants that are still really good. But then you know, if you wanted to go out and pretend you live that lifestyle or you wanted to eat out like that even once every couple months, right? You could throw a rock in LA and hit a restaurant that will give you a bill for $300.
Okay, well, on that note, then I will say and proclaim and generalize to say that it is easy to feed a family of 4 with a grocery budget of less than $500 a month. It is easy. That is easy to do. So that is the level of we're talking about easy. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to the Mixing Music Podcast. Again, check out our sponsors, mixingmusicpodcast.com. Support us in that way. If you are interested in learning more, getting 3 times the amount of episodes, go to mixingmusicpodcast.com/exclusive for 2 extra episodes every single week in the exclusive content. That is $4 a month or $40 a year for me and me talking shit. No, not talking shit, but giving actual real advice based on what other people say and critiquing what other people say, breaking myths or empowering good ones. And here we are. Thank you so much for listening. Anybody that's left a 5-star review, that has left a couple nice words or comments on the different platforms, that helps us a lot. We are literally just past 800,000 downloads. We are on our way to 1 million fucking downloads that I believe that we can get by early to mid next year.
Yeah.
We're on track to get it early to mid next year. 1 million downloads for this humble, niche, super niche podcast. We are the #1 audio post-production podcast in the fucking world, and that is thanks to you. Big round of applause. Big round of applause. Thanks to y'all. Thank you so much for listening. Happy mixing, my friends, and stay saucy. That was a long episode.
It was. But it was also a lot of points to touch on.
That was a really good one. 28 Entertainment, you still here? Anton Bjorklund, yo.
I messaged Mitchell Vincent, I think his name was.
Can you talk to Micha? He said the mic isn't working or something like that.
Oh, I already know why. Yeah, let me give her a call.
Just text her back or whatever. Let's call it a day.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to give her a call just because I changed the setting on it to make it work for the client on Saturday. Actually, no, that setting was reverted. Talkback's not working.
Okay, I got a new book given to me and recommended by a neighbor of mine.
Zen.
Oh, I don't know if it's going to show up. Cover your face, Luke.
And the Art of Tapping It.
Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
What? I like the title.
Here we go. This is from like late 70s, apparently. It's been a big seller for a while. Here's the back of the book. One of the most important and influential books written in the past half-century. Robert M. Pirsig's Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance is a powerful, moving, and penetrating examination of how we live, and a breathtaking meditation on how to live better. Here's the book that transformed a generation, an unforgettable narration of a summer motorcycle trip across America's Northwest undertaken by a father and his young son. A story of love and fear, of growth and discovery and acceptance that becomes a profound personal and philosophical odyssey into life's fundamental questions. This uniquely exhilarating modern classic is both touching and transcendent, resonant with myriad confusions of existence and the small essential triumphs that propel us forward. From the Baltimore Sun, it is filled with beauty, a finely made whole that seems to emanate from a special, very special grace. From the New York Times, strange and wonderful, it meditates on those grand philosophical problems that were first addressed in this country by the likes of Thoreau and Melville. It seems as fresh and compelling as it did decades ago. So it's basically, from what I understand, a fictional story to tell practical truths about Buddhism and practicing some basic philosophy and relating it to maintaining a motorcycle.
I like it.
It's kind of relatable. So we're going to see. This is my next door neighbor gave it to me, and he talked about it before. He said he always loved it. So I've never been gifted a book before. I don't know. I've been gifted a book maybe once before, but now I feel compelled to read it. Also, that's a topic that I love.
Yeah, it's a re-download Audible, but I actually picked up one of the books that you had recommended in the past.
There you go.
Yeah.
The 4 Agreements.
Yeah.
I think I lost my copy. No, I see it. Four Agreements is great.
Yeah, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is another one I'm trying to get back onto. I had started it, but then I think that was around the time like I started the project, started getting busy, and then as soon as I woke up, I would just get to work.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad is like... It's a classic baseline book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm only
like you should read it once. You should read it once, but it's like... Is it the best? I don't know. I don't know.
Atomic Habits unfortunately put me to sleep like a third in.
Oh, Atomic Habits is so fucking good. It's so fucking good. As far as like the content. It's just
have you listened to the book, the Audible version of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's even at 1.5, it's just a little draining where it's like
Oh, I mostly just read it.
Yeah.
I mostly just read it.
Yeah. Like today, I have to go to.
If you want an emotional draining book, I can give you some.
I don't know if I want that. Oh, speaking of which, there is so much to do in Breath of the Wild.
Oh, yeah, dude. It's crazy how much you do.
Dude, what is your strongest armor?
I don't know. I haven't played Breath of the Wild in years. I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom.
Did you ever upgrade your armor?
Of course. I have maxed out armor for like almost everything.
Yeah, I'm on the 4th. I'm just gonna call it a Titan. My strongest armor is still 4.
You haven't upgraded it at all?
I just figured out how to do it, dude. I have been grinding for fucking hearts and stamina.
How many hearts do you have?
30.
You have 30. You got all of them? Is that all of them?
No. So I tried figuring out how to farm for fucking hearts to the point where I'm like, I cannot fight these guys on perfect every time. I get hit once and I died. Every single fight. I got through 2 of them like that and it took hours. Like me getting sick actually is the reason I played so much of Zelda recently.
Yeah.
But because I had 2 complete days of being bedridden, I was like, there's no fucking way DK was able to get through this game with just like 4 or 5 hearts. Like fighting all these boss battles and everything.
Although I will say that my mechanical skill in that game is good enough where it would take me a long time to die a lot, but I could do it.
No. I got through the first 2 and I was halfway done with the 3rd one with 4 or 5 hearts. But then I went on YouTube and I'm like, how to get more hearts, like faster. And apparently there's a shrine there called the Horn Shrine. I don't know if you ever saw
Wait, what
that
are you talking about? Like the... Hold on, the hearts is in like the stamina and hearts, right?
Yeah.
Like the max hearts.
Yeah. So there's a shrine there called the Horned Shrine, and apparently it was like one of like, I don't know, one of the demigods of the game that eventually got like punished and thrown into the shrine. But you give it a heart, it gives you 100 rupees. You want the heart back, it's going to be 120 rupees, right? Well, it's right next to the pendulum shrine. Apparently, if you do it right, you can give it your hearts, ask for it back, then go do this thing at the pendulum shrine, go back to it, and apparently it acts as it's like a glitch in it. And I was like, okay, cool.
So you don't have to do the shrines? That's crazy.
Yeah, here's the downside. That's when I fully realized how hard I was getting hit. Each one of those titans was taking away 10 hearts per hit. I would have to do, 4 shrines per heart, right? If I needed 5 more, that's what? I needed to do 20 more shrines just to get enough to still be hit in a 1-hit kill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They hit so hard.
Well, you also get better armor the more you progress the story. In general, like, you'll find it in the treasure chest. That's the fun thing with Zelda is that's, like, the complete amount of freedom.
Yeah.
It's, like, it's so non-linear.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a really good game.
They balance... There's actually, like, a YouTube video that talks about the game design of it, and it's, like, how they balance keeping it super open world and really expressive and free.
Yeah.
But also how they use different aspects of the game, like the paths...
Yeah.
To make it, to add some sort of perceived agency, but actually they're guiding you to the next point of the story. So you feel like you can do whatever you want, but you're still being guided.
So one thing that I've gotten used to is trying to, unfortunately, be the guy looking for the shortcut on the map. and it
Me
just
too.
means I'm climbing mountains and trying to fly across things.
Yeah, that's fun in
Yeah,
itself.
and then I got stuck on the labyrinth, and I couldn't figure out how to get back into. But yeah, then
Have you beat? So you're on the 4th.
I'm working on the
Whatever.
4th one, the volcano one.
Nice.
Yeah,
The lizard
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
yeah. So I got into the volcano, but I haven't fought the guy yet, so
Okay,
I don't know
so
what that
let's
fight's like.
talk about review of the first. How many hours have you put into it? 20? More than 20? 50?
I'd say easily 80.
That much?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Think,
so
think
the
about
first,
it. For
okay.
2 complete days, I probably played like 10 to 12 hours each day.
First 40 hours versus second 40 hours. Rated 1 out of 10. First 40 hours. Never playing a single Zelda game. You've never played any sort of Zelda game.
No, I did. Nintendo 64 and before.
Okay, so you played like Majora's,
Like Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time,
Okay,
and things like
Those
that.
are like classic.
Yeah, the Game Boy games.
Okay, okay. So Breath of the Wild, first time playing it.
Uh-huh.
First 40 hours, what is your...
At first I was underwhelmed in the sense of the graphics because everybody was talking about like how it's like really high quality graphics for the Switch, but I was like, well, I'm not really seeing that. But I see the animation style and the fact that there's so much land and so much of a map to look at. I'm like, yo, they really mapped all of this. Like, I don't think I've explored
and
the
you
map
can see
fully
forever
at all.
away. Yeah.
Yeah, so and it doesn't look like box clicky, so I'm like, oh, this is what they're talking about. I'm like, okay. So at first it was like underwhelmed. Now I'm like, yo, low key, like Pokemon can't even get close to this open world map. Like the map is so small in Pokemon compared to Zelda, and
I've never played open world Pokemon.
yeah, and yet the graphics in Zelda are equal. So it's like, how much information are they porting? Like they're
I
rehashing
cannot,
information for Pokemon.
I
and then
can't wait till
Zelda.
you play. If you play Tears of the Kingdom.
I want to finish Breath of the Wild first. I don't
you-
mind like
if
not
you play it-
100%ing it.
if you
I just
play
want to
it-
finish the story.
If you play it, I kind of want to. There's going to be one part of the game that I kind of want to watch you do, like watch you discover it.
Okay.
Because there's one specific part when it first came out, and you may know about it now because people talk about it.
Oh, I haven't been looking at anything about
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Let it surprise you. There's one
Yeah.
part where if you go somewhere. Anyway,
I
we'll
do
talk about it
know.
when we
I
get there.
do know that like one of the maps that I was trying to find, because those map towers, the I guess the skyscrapers, I guess you can call them. Yeah, to get to them on some of them are a bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like at some points I'm like, wait, how do I get a horse? And I'm like looking for the horses on an unfilled map, and I'm like, I don't even know where the tower is or anything. I'm like trying to find everything, but I found out that one of the stables is also the same stable in Tears of the Kingdom. So I'm like, okay, so there might be some ties into it. I know that, but that's the extent of what I know.
Yeah. And the cool thing about Zelda is that like Breath of the Wild, and even more so Tears of the Kingdom, but in Breath of the Wild, you can solve shrines, you can solve the towers, the observed towers in unconventional ways, the ways that you know that they didn't intend. Like you can get really creative.
So I accidentally, so I looked up a shrine after I did it because apparently there was an item in there that I needed. I wanted more ancient cores, and I was like, oh, there's one in the shrine I already did. Cool. So I just went back to the shrine, and as I'm watching the video to find out which one of the chests has the core, I'm like, oh, they did this thing completely different from how I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that's the fun part is that it's like it's super unique in that sense. Like you make it your own experience. Anyway,
Yeah.
okay, so first half out of 10. First 40.
To be honest, I'd give it an 8.
It's that good in the first half.
First half, reason being is that you were right about something. It's very grindy like Monster Hunter, except in Monster Hunter, your shields and swords don't break.
Yeah.
You know, like
That's
they
still
wear
a really
down.
high rating. Because there's times where you like talked about it and you were talking about grinding for the shrines, and I was like, oh, this guy's not enjoying it. But 8 is pretty high.
ADHD, when you hyper focus, you know this, like you just get really into it. So once I get into a puzzle and I start getting frustrated, I start getting mad because I'm like, now I really have to do this.
I mean, you got into it enough to look up glitches on YouTube.
I actually did not intentionally look up the glitch. I just happened to find it, and I'm like, you know what, fuck it. I'm pissed off because I can't keep getting one shot every time I do a boss fight.
So
Like I'm in the wild and I'm like, okay, I'm making progress. I'm about to get to the tower, and then I get shot by an arrow and I'm dead. I'm like,
so that's impressive. So 8 out of 10 is low for real fans, but that's high from what I thought you were going to say. So
Yeah.
so what about the second half? 40 hours to 80 hours. Is it the same?
It's now closer to like a 7.
Oh, it got worse.
Only reason is this. I want to upgrade the armor, but there's so much grinding to it. So goddamn much.
It's something that you do passively. What have you been doing with the items that you've been passively picking up? Have you been selling
I sell them for rupees.
Okay, that's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Don't sell anything.
No. So that wasn't the major issue, because like I'll sell like the Gorgon eye or teeth or whatever. That's like 20 rupees for it, but like you get them on a regular basis. You end up with like 100 to 200 at a time.
And you can sell those to what's his name?
The beetle.
No, yeah, the guy that's into the monster stuff. Like he really loves monster stuff. You can sell monster stuff to him.
Oh, I don't know specifically.
Okay, don't sell your monster stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't sell anything yet.
Yeah. Also.
Only sell like gems, like rubies, sapphires.
Yeah. Like, I also think part of it is that I like to play games and not look up what I'm looking at. I like to just play blindly, and then the second round I'll do my like strategy round or whatever, right? I don't buy guidebooks or anything. I just like to play blindly.
I don't know anybody that does guidebooks. 1995.
But like that. Well, see, I'm referencing Pokemon.
I've also had a Pokemon guidebook. Yeah.
I had like the gold and silver version. I miss it. I think I did the Titans in the wrong order. Because the first one that I did...
There is no wrong order, but there's definitely one.
There's an order that kind of helps you a little bit. Like, I wish I did the bird first.
Yeah. Always do the bird first.
See, you say always, but I was blind.
Yeah. But you don't know that until... Yeah. I just remember the first time I did the bird first too, but maybe that was because the game unintentionally... I think the game tells you to do the bird first.
Yeah,
to do Van Meadow first.
I'm also impatient with overly scripted games where it's like, I get it, but can we move on? You know? So like I'm like skipping through things, so I probably missed that. Like I missed the whole heart container thing. Like I knew that we went to a shrine and they gave us a heart, but I thought you only get hearts from like battling out and like finding the containers and things like that. I did not know that that's what the soul stuff was for at first. So I had gotten like 10 or 12 like souls and never used them. And so for like
souls,
the ball that you get after the puzzles.
Oh, the orbs. Oh, the spirit orb things.
Spirit orb. That's what it is. I did not know that specifically was for that. I thought at some point, like, you're just supposed to complete the game by having them all. I thought it was one of those just like quest key items, you know? So I fought the first 2 bosses with 3 hearts, which is why it was really pissing me off that I couldn't just like, how are all these people getting hit and then they like lose half a heart?
I will say though, now that I know that you skipped through the dialogue, that's probably where a lot of it is.
Yeah, because I think...
Because the dialogue
first one I did was the electricity one, the thunder one, the all-girl town. The camel in the desert. I did that one first, and then I did the water one next. And then I did the flying one, and now I'm doing the fire one.
Okay, so hold on. The electricity one, what power do you gain?
Where when you charge...
the slash, the slash charge. And then what was the water one? The water one was...
like a second life, I think it is.
Second life, yeah, that's right. Mia's Grace or whatever it was.
And then the flying one is like which would have helped me out so much in the labyrinth, I'm not going to lie.
Dude, that's crazy.
Oh my god.
Anyway, but yeah, I'm playing a game that you wouldn't like because there's tons of dialogue, but it's funny dialogue. Because of the excitement of the excitement of Thousand Year Door, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door being remade from the last Switch Nintendo Direct, I bought and started playing the new one, Origami Kingdom or whatever, the Paper Mario. Yeah. Yo, it's fucking hilarious. It's so funny.
You know, I never played Paper Mario. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm gonna show you a scene. This is so funny. I'm going to show this to the stream too. Watch this. Here you go. This is an actual scene from the game. Hold on. Wait. I got to pause the music because the music is important. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Wow, this is amazing. We're up so high. The view is so vast. These mountains are so huge. Are you seeing this, Mario? Now Mountains here, mountains there. It's mountains all the way up. Why didn't anyone tell me that the world could be so wonderful? Is this your first time out of the house or something? Oh, were you asleep? I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to wake you. I'm just very excited. My friend Mario and I are on a quest to follow a big blue streamer. Anyway, what's your story? What brings you around aboard this tram today? Me? Well, I'm Bomb Bomb. And that's about all I remember. You know that memory loss thing? What's it called? Ambrosia? Amnesty? Thinky panic? Whatever you call it, I've got a big time. So I'm on a solo journey to try and remember, well, anything. My home, my purpose, all that. You have amnesia? You don't have any memories? Oh, you poor thing. I have a great idea. You should join us on our quest. We can help you recover your lost memories and make a ton of new ones along the way. So this is your first time getting a sidekick. Oh, hold on. We gotta skip to the part where you don't let... I don't even have any special moves. It'd just be in the way. I mean, I could probably be talked into it if you really wanted me to, but... Okay, never mind. You raised some great points. It's probably better for you to travel alone. Sorry to bother you. Have a great journey. And the music stops. Wow. So beautiful. Is that offer still on the table, you know, to join you two? Because I might be considering it, joining you, that is, on your quest. You with the cool stash of the big M. Your name was Mario, right? That sounds so familiar. I feel like you're some kind of pro at this adventure stuff. So, can I join you? That's please? Hooray! Okay, so that's what happens if you say yes, but you can also say no. So, can I join you? That is, please? Ah, I see. Right, because I said all that stuff about being in the way. Yeah, I'd just be a burden. I get it, no hard feelings. I'm gonna nap a bit before we get to Autumn Mountain. Music stops. Okay, so listen. I thought about it a bit more, and that floating lady already invited me to join, right? Taking that offer back now would be really mean, and you don't look like a mean guy. So here it is. Cards on the table. I would love to join you both on your quest. What do you say, Big M? Ha! Ah. Okay. You must have your reasons. I'll just sit this one out. Some other time, maybe. Did I mention that I've lost all my memories? So I just want to make sure you caught that part. You've been very quiet. Which is cool, don't get me wrong. Love the strong silent hero type. I could learn a lot from you. Master and pupil, hero and sidekick. Fate must have brought us together. You can't deny fate, right? Sorry, was that no, I can't deny fate, or no, you can't join us? I should have phrased it better. I don't know, I love this kind of like comedic stuff in a video game.
It's just like that they actually like scripted all this.
Yeah, it's like, please, please let me join you on an adventure. I'm begging you. Mario, come on. And that's the end of it. So
Yeah.
then this part loops. Please, please let me join you on an adventure. I'm begging you. And it just loops. But the point that was even an option, that they took the time to even script that in, I think is hilarious.
See, that's good game development. I've actually been watching a bunch of like YouTubers about game development, where like I forget what the YouTuber's name is, but like he did one on Pokemon X and Y from the DS, where he actually broke down. He's like, why the Pokemon franchise has actually really stepped in it over time, and considering like how their game development was made when they first started compared to now, and what flaws they're running into now, and both as a franchise and as a company that is able to sustainably keep moving in this way. But Mario is just one of those IPs that like you can do anything with Mario. You don't even have to bring anything back, and when you do bring it back, it's just like you really have all the time in the world to do it because even the old games are still selling.
That's the thing. Like, if you don't have proper lore or the story isn't a big deal, it allows for huge amounts of flexibility. Yeah. Paper Mario so far so good. I really like it. It's fun.
What is the point of Paper Mario?
It's Mario. That's paper, made of paper.
Literally, it's
Mario well, this paper. One, the Origami Kingdom, or whatever the hell it's called. Mm-hmm. There's a prince, an origami prince, and he's trying to fold everybody into origami because he thinks that looks better. So it's like he's trying to force everybody to be a certain way. Yeah. And you're Mario, and you're stopping him.
But is it kind of the same like platformer 2D?
It's like, think about like it's like an RPG. Mm-hmm. So it's not technically platforming, although there's like platformy parts to it. There's a lot of platformy parts to it, but it's not intense platformer. It's like an RPG with some platforming.
Like, it's a nice variety overall.
Yeah, even the combat style is more puzzle based, so it's like a puzzle. You'll have to look it up. But so it's not like Pokemon where you have moves, but it is like Pokemon in the sense that like you do have turns, but but you solve a puzzle. Yeah. Yeah. So you can be really weak and still do really well, or you can be. So that's just what it is. The only annoying part about it so far is that it's the same exact fucking puzzle every single time, and it's kind of difficult.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's not an easy puzzle. Maybe I'm just getting old and becoming less plastic. But anyway, that's it. That's enough banter, post-show banter. Thank you so much for listening. Happy mixing my friends. Stay saucy. Enjoy your week. Have a great week. Happy Monday, everybody.
Oh yeah.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Peace.
Let me go play with some wood.
Yeah. What? Bye.